All right, let's do this. Gypsy Rose Blanchard speaks out after release from prison. I don't know anything about this person. I know some things about this person, but not a lot. I know that she was a victim of Munchausen by proxy, had severe mental health issues. Her mother was basically keeping her captive. They got a lot of donations as a consequence of that. They got a house. Her mother was poisoning her. She's popping off because she had a Hulu series, I guess, right before her release. And it came during the time when everyone really got invested in true crime. It seems like her boyfriend at the time apparently sexually assaulted Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She killed her, and people saw that as a valid kill, which I think it's fine. I mean, the boyfriend killed her, but she also was a complicit in the murder. Anyway, let's watch.
With Gypsy Rose Blanchard. In her first interview after leaving prison for her role in the murder of her mother, she sat down with 2020 anchor Deborah Roberts. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning, George. Her dramatic life of tragedy and survival has just captivated so many, especially Gen Zers, in a way that very few have. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, who helped kill her mother to escape a life of suffering and abuse, has been the subject of countless media stories and a Hollywood series. Well, now she's a free woman, and she's telling her own story.
I share my story to be a cautionary tale so that the next person that might be in a situation like mine, they don't take the route that I did.
Controversial opinion alert. There's so many things that kids see on TikTok that they want to emulate and even fantasize about mental illnesses that they may have. I'm worried some Zoomer TikToker is going to watch this and be like, oh, I have the same situation, and then kill their parents when their parents have not been doing that at all. Oh, that's a brain dead take. That's like a 90s parent crying about blood in Mortal Kombat. I'm so wrong. TikTok certainly doesn't have the capacity to create dangerous challenges. People who definitely go out and buy a bunch of ridiculous things that they see because it's popping on TikTok. Yeah, Chatter acting like the blue whale challenge never existed. It's all good. I agree. And shooting random pedestrians in GTA builds serial murderers. No, there's a very real difference between something in the real world motivating people to do the same thing in the real world versus a video game that motivates people to be violent in the real world. There is no evidence for the second thing, video games motivating people to be more violent in the real world, but there's certainly evidence for the first thing, people seeing something and then repeating it in the real world. People seeing something in the real world and doing it. Bro, that doesn't happen. The things that we just brought up, the blue whale stuff, is real. That did happen. What are you talking about? I'm not talking about art motivating people to do stuff, but copycats exist. Real reasons as to why, for example, people don't cover all the gruesome details of murders when they are happening. Because people do copycat murders. I don't know why we're acting like a concept as old as the printing press itself is now somehow a new revelation. I feel like today, more than any other day on this broadcast, I have a lot of naysayers. Now, I don't expect you to agree with every single thing that I say, but I do definitely expect you to, at the very least, think critically and make good counter arguments. Not simply, bro, that doesn't happen, or not simply making a comparison that is false and easily disprovable.
I just wanted out of my situation, and I thought that that was the only way out.
In 2015, Gypsy says she reached a breaking point and plotted with a boyfriend she met online, Nicholas Godejohn, to kill her mother. Gypsy would later plead guilty to second-degree murder. Godejohn was convicted of carrying out the stabbing death and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The Blue Whale Challenge was shown to be a fraudulent story that showed causal links where none existed. There was no evidence of any of the other claimed incidences being caused outside of influence. Okay, copycat murders are still real, though.
He is incarcerated for life for killing your mom, and you're out?
Well, I'm sure that we both have a lot of regrets. All I can really say is that I did my...
No, that's not how it works, okay? He was extra crazy, had priors, totally valid, I think, as far as I understand, for him to be in prison and not be able to get out. Also, I do feel like, there's going to be inequality. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. It sucks to suck, but that's usually how it goes, right? That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. I just read about the blue whale now. From seeing, it seems like a ghost story is being used to link unrelated suicides. Do you know any confirmed accounts of it? No, I remember reading about it and believing it. It can totally be one of those old internet legends. That part is totally valid. Yes, people do see things in the real world and want to repeat them. And I think people are still jumping jumping on the blue whale thing over and over again, like this person. Copycat murders existed before TikTok though. And I think people are just gonna like jump down my throat to be like, oh dude, I got you. But then you also made my point for me. I never said TikTok is the exclusive reason as to why people do stupid things that they see. TikTok certainly does, alongside many of the other social medias, have a tendency to exacerbate the worst aspects of our harmful behavior. I think I'm going to stop responding to people in the chat and continue watching this.
During her prison stay, public fascination with Gypsy exploded. Her story portrayed in multiple documentaries and a drama series, The Act.
I'm so trapped.
Yeah, by the way, I never was saying that like there's going to be a massive amount of people who think that they have Munchausen by proxy and killed their parents. I'm simply saying that this could absolutely lead to a copycat thing that I worry about, but I don't know why everything has to be this massive debate, guys. I hope you guys understand that you probably shouldn't behave like this in the real world because it will lead you to have zero friends. One aspect of like debate lord existence to just never have real friends in the flesh world and only have friends in internet forums. Like you don't have to debate the veracity of every claim, even if I'm making like an offhanded remark. Not everything has to be all that serious. We're talking about some true crime. We gotta watch the View clip. Wait, what? She's on the View too?
Watching right now. Please listen to me. Heed my words that you are not alone in this, situation. There are other ways out. I did it the wrong way.
No. Don't say that.
I did.
You had no choice,
I did
really.
something wrong, and I paid my dues for it.
Oh, you mean that part?
Yes, the part of it.
yeah.
That part of it. Yeah.
Where are you going with this?
Yeah, no.
Like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. Just a little bit of murder.
So I did something.
Her IG post about people bullying her husband's looks. Yeah, I saw that. Gypsy Rose Blanchard defends husband Ryan from negative comments online. Ryan, don't listen to the haters. I love you and you love me. We don't owe anyone anything. They jealous because you are rocking my world every night. ... Yeah, I said it. The D is fire. Happy wife, happy life, heart. Oh, he responded, who said I give a damn about what these jealous people say anyway? Haha, ... Now come get it, baby. ... What is going on? That post is fake. Big dubs for anti-copyright bros out there, but I guess like not really. Disney has lost famous Mickey Mouse copyright for the first ever Mickey Mouse. It's done. Not like the current Mickey Mouse, but this one, the Steamboat Willie one.
It's a simple early rendition of perhaps the most recognizable cartoon character ever created. The 1928 animated short Steamboat Willie marked the film debut of Mickey Mouse. And Minnie, too. Now, almost 100 years later, this landmark piece of entertainment will enter the public domain, meaning Disney will lose its right to control it, and others can use the images as they wish. This was set to happen years ago, until Disney, with other groups, got Congress to pass extensions. But the last of them expires at midnight on New Year's Eve.
Basically, what's happening now is that we will be able to do to the great works of Disney what Disney did to the great works of the public domain before him. And that's how creativity is supposed to happen.
Lawrence Lessig is a Harvard law professor and expert on copyright issues.
So this is a bit of a full circle moment then.
Absolutely. And I think
I remember him from my TYT days.
that because what we know about the creativity of Walt Disney and the Disney Corporation
Wolfpack.
is that they've made stories relevant.
Wolf-pack.com.
So starting on Monday, anyone has the legal right to use Mickey and Minnie Mouse in new creative works like books and films. But there's an important caveat. It has to be the Steamboat Willie versions, not the more familiar renditions of the characters that followed.
What are the limitations? What are you not allowed to do?
You cannot use the characters in a way that misleads consumers into thinking that Disney has produced or sponsored your product.
Jennifer Jenkins teaches at Duke Law School, specializing in intellectual property and the public domain.
The way I think about that is the public domain is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
The fact that it took this long is just ridiculous in my opinion. I think public domain should be much shorter. The time frame for like IP to enter public domain should be infinitely shorter.
A lot of wonderful works and a lot of forgotten works going into the public domain in the next few years.
You want to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
For CBS Saturday Morning, Jolene Kent, Los Angeles.
Now I want to sing this. Right?
20 years? What? No, not 20 years, man. How about 10 max? Anyway, here, let's talk about why it was extended now.
Disney is about to lose copyright in Mickey Mouse. That's right, Mickey Mouse, literally the most iconic character that they've ever created. One that they themselves claim is worth $15 billion. And they're doing it all on purpose. But why? Well, the answer is both shocking and kind of genius. I'm Jake Watson, lawyer, producer, and YouTuber with Corridor Crew. Let's get into the issue. So what is a copyright? Why does Mickey Mouse have one that's almost 100 years old? How is he going to lose it? And why does that matter? A copyright is the right of an author of an artistic or scientific work to exploit that work without anybody else being able to do so. This is known as the exclusive right. But the big picture reason, the actual reason why copyright law exists, isn't just to protect authors. The bigger reason is that it's to promote the progress of human knowledge. So copyright incentivizes people to go out, to try things, to learn things, to make things, to discover things, and in exchange ensures them that at the end of the rainbow, they will be able to exploit the fruit of their labor without it being stolen from them. But the other side of copyright is that when a work is useful enough, when it is truly useful to the benefit of our culture, it becomes part of our popular culture. And in order for human knowledge to be expanded upon over time, you need to allow people who come along.
Thank God for patents, dude. That's how all innovation has occurred historically. It was crazy when John Patton invented the patent system, then that's when we really got to innovating. Before then, it was like fire wasn't even invented.
Now, Mickey Mouse has a copyright because he is in essence a work of art.
Unpopular opinion, copyright protections are good for creative professionals. Yeah, I mean, that is an unpopular opinion. I feel like copyright and patent are different, no? That's number one. And number two, I think that like some level of protection should exist. It's just like...
That's why in 1998, Disney once again lobbied Congress, this time to pass the Copyright Term Extension Act. The Copyright Term Extension Act did exactly as the name implies, and that was to amend the 1976 Act to expand copyright protection by an additional 20 years. For a total of 95 years. Once again, only for works created before 1978. Now, Disney's influence here cannot be overstated. For starters, one of the more derisive terms for the act was just to call it the Mickey Mouse Protection Act. That's probably because in addition to self-reporting $6.3 million in lobbying efforts for the act, Disney also made significant campaign contributions to key people involved in the development and passage of the act. By some reports, 18 of the 25 congresspeople who originally sponsored the bill received $800,000 campaign contributions.
This is also why Little Rhonda was slated to suck a fat one. You can't go up against the Disney, man. You can't go up against the mouse.
This brings us to today, where 95 years later, the very first version of Mickey Mouse is about to enter the public domain. So this naturally begs the question, why hasn't Disney done anything about it this time? I mean, can't they just lobby Congress again, get their copyrights extended, and everyone goes on as normal? Well, yeah, they could, and there are several reasons for why they aren't. Look, I thought about going into all of them, okay? You have the constitutionality of effectively perpetual copyright extensions. You have the social backlash that could possibly ensue if they embark on another large lobbying effort. You even have trademark, which I will talk about just a little bit, but they all pale in comparison to the real reason why they chose to do nothing about this. And the real reason is that because over the last 25 years, Disney has gotten so big that it is no longer worth the time to extend copyright in Mickey Mouse. It literally is not worth it to them anymore. That sounds simple. Oh yeah, they got big as a company, Disney, Mickey doesn't mean anything to them. No. Since 1995, the period right before the Copyright Term Extension Act, Disney has made 22 major acquisitions which have dramatically shrunk the value of Mickey Mouse as a total portion of their entire business.
I mean, this is probably the reason why they did that, right? The inevitable.
Here's a little chart of Mickey Mouse worth his $15.4 billion in today's money next to some of the major acquisitions Disney has made since 1995. Are you ready? 1996, Disney buys ABC and ESPN for $19 billion. 06, Disney buys Pixar for $7.5 billion. 09, Disney buys Marvel for $4 billion. 2012, Disney buys Lucasfilm for $4 billion. 2019, Disney buys 21st Century Fox for a staggering $71.3 billion. And on November 6th of this year, Disney announced an $8.6 billion deal to acquire full control of Hulu. So now they own ABC, ESPN, Hulu, 21st Century Fox, Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilms.
That's why it was funny when like people were talking about Elon Musk taking Disney out of the Teslas, like the Disney app out of the Teslas, while still keeping Hulu in the Teslas.
And they've all acquired them since 1995. Mickey who? I am really strong! No, you're not! Holy crap. like I wrote this. This is the 7th time I've gone through this. It still blows my mind. Think about it this way. Even when Mickey Mouse does enter the public domain, say you could go out there and you make something really cool with Mickey Mouse, something well within your rights, something 100% in the manner that copyright was intended to promote the progress of science and the use.
Guys, it's horizontal and vertical integration. Come on, it's not a monopoly, guys.
It's arts. Could you even put the dang
mergers
piece
and
somewhere
acquisitions,
that
baby.
isn't directly owned or heavily controlled by Disney? Oh, but Jake, you could put it on YouTube. Yeah, that's a great idea. It gives me another idea. The idea that in 2014, Disney bought Maker Studios for a casual $500 million.
Yeah, that was a dumb decision.
And it owned 60,000 partnered channels at the time. Now, granted, that deal went sideways, and I think Phil DeFranco owns it now, but...
Sup, you beautiful bastard?
Probably I mean, they're literally choosing not to even attempt to extend copyright protection on the most iconic character they've ever created because, well, like, he's truly mouse-sized to them now. Like, he's like a little baby boy mouse. Little Mickey boy. Come here, get a little hug, Mickey. When I started researching this video, I really wanted to say that it was a win for the people to have Mickey Mouse enter the public domain because it shows that
his haircut is so police-like.
Now look, on a more serious note, in my opinion, it is a good thing that Mickey Mouse is entering the public domain, even if it's largely due to the fact that Disney just chose not to do anything about it. For 95 years, Disney has held the exclusive right in the character of Mickey Mouse. But Mickey Mouse is so much more than a character now. He's a part of our popular culture, whether you like it or not. He's here to stay. And I'm sure that his success is well beyond Walt Disney's wildest dreams. And to be fair, it's because of the hard work that Disney has put into that character, which has made him so influential over all these years. But when we remind ourselves that the purpose of copyright is to promote the progress of sciences and useful arts so that those who come long after the authors may...
Yeah, newer versions of Mickey Mouse is still not in public domain, so technically it's Steamboat Willie that is like pretty close regardless, but that is what is enter the public domain.
Pick up that work and expand upon it and build upon it so that humanity is better off tomorrow than we are right now. I think it's time to start building. And honestly, I think the Walt Disney Company knows this too. And after researching this topic, here's my take on it. Disney just did what any other well-managed and well-positioned company would do in their circumstances. They changed how valuable Mickey Mouse was to them without changing their values. And honestly, you've got to commend them for that.
Without changing their values, yeah, their values is this. Also, they definitely changed their values. They definitely were not as woke, I guess, quote unquote woke now. We'll get started with the earthquake in Japan. Aftershocks continuing in Japan after deadly New Year's Day earthquake hit Japan. And then also there was a plane crash that happened. A rescue plane collided.
As this aircraft was landing on the runway, the Coast Guard aircraft was also on the same runway. How did that happen? That is the focus and going to be the focus of an extensive investigation here in Tokyo, a nation that prides itself on public transportation safety, a nation that's never had a single fatality and decades of running bullet trains at hundreds of miles an hour.
Yeah, certainly just a really dark period for Japan, but as you say, just remarkable that hundreds of people were able to escape those flames. Will Ripley, live for us there in Tokyo. Will, thank you.
There you can see the two airplanes and this big size difference here. A Dash 8 is a much smaller airplane, although it clearly did a lot of damage to the front of that Airbus
so you don't see my cable management.
This is the first time an Airbus A350 has ever experienced a hull loss, meaning the airplane is completely destroyed. What is clear right now is that there was a huge safety failure here in a culture that is incredibly safety conscious. The Japanese airlines had a spate of accidents in the 80s and 90s. They really cleaned up their act, but is also clear is that this was something where there was an airplane in the wrong place at the wrong time.
That's racist culture that's incredibly safe. I mean, it's literally true. It's not even just Japanese culture in general, but like the way that it's set up, there's like ton of redundancies for stop. It's racist. No, it's not. What are you talking about? Same goes for earthquakes in general. Yeah, it's racist to say like Japanese architecture is pretty incredible at mitigating some of the worst impacts of earthquakes as a consequence of being an island that is prone to being hit by devastating earthquakes and tsunamis. It's not a racist thing. It would be racist if you said like Rwanda's safety measures are lackluster as a consequence of their culture, because it's not a cultural phenomena and more so material conditions at play there. I don't know why we're talking about this, but here, let me explain something to you. For example, there's this like Twitter phenomena where women will post about like how South Korea is so safe and you can walk alone at night and it's not a big deal at all. And similar things could be said about Japan as well. The idea that like there isn't a tremendous amount of sexual violence towards women in both of these countries is so ridiculous, right? People just oftentimes will make these comparisons in a racist way, but the idea that it gives you the broadest picture that is perfectly correct and accurate is ridiculous. Yeah, South Korea's president is an incel, like an open incel.
What's really interesting here in the United States is that there has been incident after incident of airplanes in the wrong place at the wrong time on the surface of an airport. They are known officially as a runway incursion, and we have seen 7 of these incidents get so serious that the National Transportation Safety Board has been involved. JFK, Austin, Boston, Burbank, the list goes on. This incident really immediately reminds me of the Austin incident where a FedEx flight was coming into land at Austin Bergstrom last February. Southwest Airlines flight was lined up on the runway ready to take off. It was in bad weather conditions. It was dark. It was before dawn, and the FedEx crew caught the error and went around. In this case, of course, it was dark. It was about 5:47 p.m. local time, although the weather was pretty good. And now the question is whether or not this Japan Airlines flight crew was able to see this plane in front of them and why it was there. So a lot of big questions here, and investigators really have their work cut out for them, John.
And let's discuss this more and get more analysis on this. Miles O'Brien joining us now. He's a CNN aviation and aerospace analyst. Miles, good to see you today. Unfortunately, certainly a dark day for Japan.
I guess they couldn't get Austin on to do this coverage, it seems. We here at the HasanAbi broadcast have better experts, subject matter experts that we can bring on. Unfortunately, currently, none of my aviation experts are available, whether it be Murat or Austin. So I'm just going to spitball myself.
Well, just your initial read, I mean, what do you think happened here?
Rahel, you know, there are many, many layers of safety built into the system. And we got down to the absolute last layer here in this one, which was the possibility of an orderly evacuation. And I think we can't underscore enough how successful that evacuation was. The crew did a great job getting them off. And if any group of people collectively would listen to a flight crew and do what they're told and follow the rules, it is the people of Japan. Anybody who's lived there and knows the culture there, they do in fact listen to rules and follow rules. So that was really fantastic. And there was a great demonstration of the possibilities there. The other thing to think about here, Rahel, is there have been decades of work on the part of the FAA and other organizations to reduce the flammability of the materials that are inside the cabin of an aircraft. And this is an example here, I think, of the success there, that it holds off potential danger from the toxic fumes and the flames enough time to get passengers off if they listen to the rules. So we can take that away as a half-full look at it, but clearly there's some dramatic failure in the system here, which will have to be identified and worked on.
And how do they do that? I mean, once they identify the causes here, walk us through how they officially investigate this.
Well, you've got 3 main parties here. You've got the flight crew aboard the Airbus A350. You have
definitely policy over culture. I think it is policy. That part is not culture. I think it's policy. And that policy stems from, I guess, cultural attitudes in general. But it certainly is policy over culture in this regard, yes.
Apparently, the surviving pilot, the Coast Guard pilot on the Dash 8, the smaller aircraft, and you have the air traffic controllers up there in the control tower. And each of them will have a story to tell. They'll be interviewed separately. And of course, on top of that, what you have are lots of recordings of the air traffic control communications.
Is it because of an earthquake or because of bad navigation? No, the reason why this happened is because the Coast Guard plane was operating due to the earthquake. And I assume some wires got crossed in that situation. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. Like, they probably already know what the deal is.
The cockpit voice recorder on the Airbus A350. I'm not sure if that Japanese Coast Guard craft was similarly equipped. We'll have to see about that. But the parties involved, the people who made the decisions in this case, are all present and with us still to sort of sort out what happened, where the confusion happened, As Pete pointed out, it was good weather, but it was nighttime. It's the busiest airport in the Pacific Rim, in the middle of a terrible disaster. A lot of adrenaline going, I'm sure, with that Coast Guard crew trying to get needed relief supplies up to the stricken region. So there are a lot of subtle human factors here that need to be addressed.
Turning back to Japan now, a series of earthquakes rocked the western part of the country. At least 48 people have been killed and 17 seriously injured, according to officials.
A Weather Service camera caught the start of the quake. It destroyed homes, cracked highways, shook railway stations, and even set a temple gong ringing. At one shrine where people had gathered for New Year's, it almost toppled the ancient stones. American Daniel Smith was there.
It just started very slowly, and everybody kind of laughed it off. They thought, this is kind of humorous, on New Year's Day. And then it was just a violent shaking. Violent shaking.
A tsunami warning was broadcast Monday afternoon for the area around the epicenter on Japan's northwest coast. In the main town of Nanao, locals gathered on a hill, anxiously watching the sea and waiting in the cold for either disaster or the all clear. Japan is still traumatized by memories of the huge earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
I've seen that video so many times. The one with like the black water just coming in and ripping all the K trucks away. That one is crazy. The old one that they just showed, the old video. What a way to start the year, man.
Killed more than 18,000 people and caused one of the world's worst nuclear meltdowns at Fukushima. This morning, with the threat of a tsunami over, Japan's nuclear authorities said its reactors were all fine. But large areas of the Noto Peninsula have been devastated. Mudslides and crumpled roads are now complicating efforts to find people who may still be trapped under the ruins. And this evening, we're hearing that at the main airport, 500 people are trapped in the building. Some of them are travelers who simply can't go anywhere because the runways have been too damaged for planes to come in and out, and others are just taking shelter there because they've been forced out of their homes. Lindsay?
Elizabeth, what is the latest on search and rescue efforts?
This means that John Mayer is currently stuck in Japan. And I'm not even kidding. If I wasn't going to Italy, there was a shot that I was going to go with a couple friends alongside himself to Japan over New Year's. Not a bad place to be stuck in, to be honest. Active incident is happening, like a natural disaster. I would have liked it because I would have streamed it. I would have gone to I would have tried to I've never actually done, like a natural disaster stream. I've talked about doing a storm chasing.
This morning, the Las Vegas judge attacked during a sentencing hearing is bruised.
I'm sorry, but that's an incredibly impressive leap. That dude is just, his talents are going to waste.
Judge Weiss says there's currently a shortage of marshals providing security in the Clark County court system. He says only one marshal was present at the time of the attack, but he admits even a second may not have stopped Reddit.
They're kind of glazing him a little bit, which I respect. Bro, look at his back feet. That's awesome. He cleared it. That's crazy. I really, really respect that. I will say it with my entire chest. I respect it out of that.
He says only one marshal was present at the time of the attack, but he admits even a second may not have stopped Redden.
He moved too quick. Bro's in the wrong court. Oh, that's such a good take.
I just figure I'm in a better place in my mind, my mental health. I have a support system. I just got hired as a teamster for, the union, making $20 an hour, and
He's a union man. Free him. He's a union man. Free him.
Dealing with mental health, and I didn't know that I was dealing with mental health, and they put me in mental health court, and I still didn't know that I had a mental health problem until it was August 2022 when I realized I had a problem with this, and having a dictionary and understanding myself, getting to know myself a little better. And applying it to my personality and having an epiphany at that moment in those instances, and just trying to learn from my mistakes, And I feel like I shouldn't be sent to prison, but if it's appropriate for you, then you have to do what you have to do.
Try saying free him, he beats women. He's a union man. Plenty of wife beaters are out there free and not union men. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, half the cops in that courtroom have beat their wives. They're union men too. They should be in prison instead. All jokes aside, look, clearly his reaction after the judge's condescension shows that maybe he's got a little bit more learning to do. The unfortunate problem is that prison is the worst place for that kind of learning. His reaction was adequate. No tolerance for racism, says anarcho junkie. Dude, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? Yo, people love larving in this chat.
But the criteria of me saying this is that I'm a person that never stops trying to do the right things, even if it's hard.
He definitely is an overachiever. I'm just saying, he is an overachiever. I mean, the judge being a woman and him being that excited to pummel her kind of also plays along with the DV charges. Like, I think it does make more sense that he would be denied no time served. I think looking at his priors and looking how long the rap sheet is, even with everything I know about how those rap sheets are cultivated, especially when paired with his reaction to the judge, it does feel like, you know, there's got to be a little bit of punishment, right?
In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court.
It's still funny though. I want to hear what Lolo's take would be here. Gonna keep it a bug with you. I just saw this tonight and I've watched it about 100 times. I needed this. I've talked to Lolo about this a lot. Lolo overruled. It's gruesome out there. You got like homeless people that are nabbed for like fare evasion and then they get slapped with like additional charges like resisting arrest, things of that nature. You got people that want to see their children for the holidays and like the judges demonstrate that level of contempt all the time. Probably as a consequence of like consistently dealing out what they think is justice on a daily basis. So much crime they see, and you can't really do that without kind of being disgusted by the people that you are sending to prison. It'd be kind of difficult, right? If you saw them as human beings, you're like, well, I'm literally jailing, removing the freedoms of actual human beings with loved ones and goals and aspirations. I want to join Weasel News, actually. You should twat out your reporting. Working on a story. Sex work in Los Santos. Are the terms of service too restrictive? I've lost almost my life.
So who got hit by a tow truck?
I've lost my job prospects. Are you towing my van? What is to be done? But the news never stops. City is absolute garbage.
Oh,